Hello, my name is Ian Chevalier, and for my personal project, I built a computer. The goal of my project was to learn more about the construction and operation of computers, and to build one. I've always been intrigued by computers and their ability to process extraordinary things with ease. For example, I've always wondered how a computer could take inputs and produce outputs that are beyond the ability of the human brain in seconds. I've always loved the computers that I've gotten for Christmas and for my birthday, but I decided that maybe I should build one. So I decided to build a computer, but not any ordinary computer. I wanted to build a gaming computer. This computer would be a high-end, powerful PC that has no problems playing modern games on high or ultra graphic settings. This goal challenged me because it required me to do extensive research on not only how computers work, but also researching different parts that I want to include in my build. I inquired about different prices and how they relate to their price-to-power ratio, so if they were worth the price, and if the parts benchmarks were capable of running the games that I wanted to play. This is important for me because gaming has been an important part of my life. It's something that I've loved to do ever since that I was a little kid on my Xbox 360. I've made a lot of great friends through gaming, and as I've been growing up, a lot of them have been moving to playing games on PC, and so I'd love to join them on this PC, and so this is my personal project. I believe that my project aligns with the scientific and technological innovation context. Through my project, I will be learning about the process of automated processing. I will also learn how to build a computer and run diagnostics using the BIOS settings and install operating systems. I will learn how to use these through issues I overcome building my own PC and issues that I'll have in the future. I have limited prior knowledge on this subject. I know that building a computer is a very complex and delicate process, and that there are many different parts that I'll have to research and buy. I learned that I need to make sure my CPU comes with thermal paste, which is a heat-resistant glue that is used to secure the CPU to the motherboard. I also know that a Wi-Fi or Ethernet adapter is required. I overlooked this because on pre-built laptops and desktops, the adapter comes within the computer itself. I also know that I need to buy and install an operating system, such as Microsoft Windows, Linux, or Macintosh. These operating systems are the screens that we see and allow us to use integrated programs such as Library and the Start menu. I overlook this because on a computer that you just go to a store and buy, that's a pre-built, it automatically comes with the operating system downloaded and ready to boot whenever you turn it on. So when you turn on the computer, rather than seeing the BIOS menu, you'll see the welcome screen, and then you put your password in and then you're in. I won't have that luxury at first. While doing research, I came across the need of this thermal paste, which I mentioned before, and I was interested, so I decided to do research on it. Thermal paste is a compound that is used to secure the CPU, or central processing unit, to the motherboard. Thermal paste is made out of non-conductive elements such as silicon and zinc, and these are used so that the CPU doesn't overheat and sometimes melt. Another resource that I used was a website called PC Part Picker. This is more of a tool than it is a site for information, but it does give users a lot of information. This site allows users to view a massive database of parts and virtually assemble their PC. And the site checks for prices over many markets such as Newegg, Amazon, and Outlet PC. I can also check reviews and compatibility to ensure that my parts will fit together into my select case. It also just checks on things like the wattage to make sure that my power supply can handle the parts that I'm getting. To ensure that my goal is met for the criteria of my project, my PC should be able to run a variety of modern games with difficult graphic requirements with ease. This is very important because what's the point of building a gaming PC if it can't run any games? A method of testing this is setting a couple of benchmarks for games, selecting the highest graphics setting and turning the FPS counter. This is a setting that displays the number of frames per second that a game is currently running at, and recording the number of frames that my computer can achieve. At the conclusion of my planning phase, I'm very excited for building this computer. To build my computer, my family and I went to a store called Micro Center. It is a very large computer and electronics store here in Atlanta, and it has a wide variety of every part that I could need. So I had my list of my parts printed off, and I went to the store and I started to browse the aisles looking for all the parts that I needed. I was very fortunate that they had everything, and so I checked out, went home, and started to build my computer. Although this process might not be as long as others, the process of planning it and researching parts and then building it, although the building aspect was not only took me a couple hours, the bigger part of my project is more learning how my computer works and the inside and out of it, which I'll learn after building the computer, and is by overcoming problems that I'll learn even more. And so the process of building the computer in itself is a very complex and delicate process, because these small chips on your RAM and your CPU, if you break, you can't fix them. They're broken, and then you just have to go buy a new one. So I started by opening the boxes and reading all the instructions, which is in itself very difficult because these parts have very vague instructions, because an Intel CPU is meant to fit with any motherboard, and so it doesn't have specific instructions for the exact same motherboard that I got, and so it's a very vague picture. So I started off by taking all my parts out. I took out my CPU and fastened it to the motherboard, and then I applied the thermal paste and put my CPU fan on top. This, in addition to the thermal paste, helps the CPU keep it at a cool approximately 46 degrees Celsius when it's running, so the CPU doesn't melt. I then inserted my RAM sticks into my motherboard and then fastened the motherboard to the actual case. I then installed my GPU, which stands for Graphics Processing Unit, and this is what allows me to get those high frames per second on games, which is the very crucial important part of my computer. And I was fortunate enough to get a sale on the GTX 1050 Ti 4GB dual fan graphics card, which I wanted and was almost double the price. And so I got it half off, and I was very glad for that. I then moved on to install my wireless adapter, my power supply, and just do some all-around cable maintenance and the finishing touches for my computer. After everything was installed, I then went to my motherboard, which has a lot of different plugs, all labeled for all the different cords for my PC. So I had to then go plug in all of my different cords from my motherboard and from my graphics card and my CPU and my RAM sticks and everything to plug all those cords into the motherboard. So then after I did that, my power supply was in, I plugged it into my computer, plugged an HDMI cord from my monitor to my PC, and just turned it on, and luckily it worked. After that, the BIOS menu was opened, and this is a 1990s retro style looking computer screen, and it's a menu that allows you to get into the boot settings and kind of almost the code of the computer that's stationed on the motherboard, because without having an operating system, a computer can't really do that much. And so I took the Windows 10 USB drive that I bought with the operating system, plugged it in, and began the installation of the operating system. After that was finished, I was having a lot of trouble with the boot menus. So I called my supervisor, and he gave me a hand, and I realized that I was in the wrong boot menu. So that was, in the first day, already something that I learned, that there's different boot menus in the BIOS menu. And so after I did that and I got my computer on, I did the calibration of the certain aspects of my computer, which is just the basic things like apply a Microsoft account and put a password on your computer. And then I turned it on and started to install essential apps such as Google Chrome and Steam, which is an online video game shop and library that you can use, that most gamers use to play games on. So after that and my computer was done, I was happy, because with that I'd completed my goal. I built a computer. I got all the parts, I did all the research, I put it together, and it turned on. That's me completing my goal. I completed my goal with context because I'd take something, a bunch of electronic pieces of microchips and cords, put it all together, and it made something that works. So I had technologically innovated a computer all by myself. And I completed my criteria. I wanted to be able to play modern games on high settings and have a good result. So a game that I like to play, which is a modern game called Rainbow Six Siege, came out in about late 2015. And I'm able to play this on high graphic settings with 144 frames per second. On Xbox, I used to play this game, and the highest that you could possibly get was 60 frames per second. So that's double the amount of frames I'm getting, and that just already makes the game so much more fun to play because it's so much faster. this has just been great because I'm so glad that I've been able to, with all the time and money that I've put into this computer, that I'm able to complete this evidence and just be able to complete these goals that I set for myself. I've also been able to hone my thinking skills because I've had problems with a computer, like I said with the boot menu, and another thing that I did while I was trying to modify a game. I accidentally installed a virus that within minutes downloaded hundreds of files onto my computer with malicious intent. And so rather than just buying a antivirus software such as Norton Symantec or McAfee, I decided that it would be a great idea and a good learning experience for me to delete all these by myself. And so I did. And while it didn't take 30 seconds to click scan computer and clean, it took me about 3 hours, but I learned something. I learned how to uninstall and keep my computer safe. And so if this happens again, I can do that myself. I don't have to pay $60 a year to a company to do it for me. I've also, my collaboration and communication skills have been helped tremendously with this because, like with my virus issue, I had a lot of friends there who knew what they were doing, friends who've had computers for a long time. And when that first happens, I started freaking out. But then eventually they started to give me a hand and they reassured me and started to talk me through the process of deleting all these files, and that helped me tremendously. And without them, I don't think I could have done that. So to reflect on my project, I'm ecstatic with what I've done. I am so glad of everything I've been able to do with completing my criteria and just being able to play the games that I love with new friends and old friends that I've made and that I've had. I've reflected and learned a lot on what I've learned about my computer and learning how to overcome issues with viruses and learning how to use BIOS menus and just all the different complex programs that Microsoft Windows has to offer. I've learned also about my global context with being able to technologically innovate. I've added new things to my setup, and I've added a dual monitor display where I have two computers that are extended so that I have two different screens that my mouse just goes across it like magic. So I've learned a lot more about technological innovation through my computer. And also, the biggest part of this project is the IB Learner profile. The fact that I'm an IB Learner, I think this project has tremendously helped me with that. Because in addition to being more knowledgeable on computers and inquiring about issues that I've had with my computer, the main purpose of being an IB Learner is that you're a global learner. And with my computer, I can say that I've definitely done that. Not only have I learned all these new great things, but I've met people from around the world through playing games on my computer. Just recently, I met a guy from Germany while playing on my game, and we just started talking, and just that's the point of being an IB Learner, is that you can just communicate with people around the world. I met people from Poland, and England, and France, all while playing on these games, and people from all across the United States, from Oregon to Florida. These people that I never would have known, some of them are now my best friends. I have friends in Florida and Mississippi that I talk to almost every day, and without playing these games, I would have never met them. So while yes, I've built a great computer that I can use to play games, I've also become a better IB Learner by learning how to use these IB Learner profile skills and just being a better global learner. And this has been great, and so I would just like to thank you for that, for pushing me and motivating me to do this project, to do something that I really like to do, and helping me get through that. I would just like to say thank you. And once again, my name is Ian Chevalier, and I built a computer.